Welcome to all of you to today's webinar. As Marina said, the topic is Be Cyber Smart with SiteGround and the updated tools we've made. October, except from Halloween, is a great chance for us to raise even more awareness and bring the attention more to cybersecurity, and especially for you who are most probably owning a website or managing one or more websites. As a website owner, you're responsible for not only for yourself but for your visitors, for their security. So I really want to stress on the fact that security is not a single thing, is not a checklist that you just put marks on. It's a process, and you always have to think about it when you do pretty much your daily job on the internet. If you sign up for a service, even if it's not directly related to your website, you need to think on the back of your mind, should I be using the same password that I'm using for my web hosting platform? Should you log into that internet cafe without using a VPN, or are you going to download this nullified plugin for that website just to save a couple of dollars? So it's a process. It's a mindset that you need to develop as a web designer, to always think about your website security, to your overall online presence. Nowadays, especially with social media becoming part of our website, our lives more and more, and us interacting more and more with people that require authentication, that require us sharing data, even financial information. Having a good security habit is very important, not only from a website point of view, but for your own personality and your own safety. So I want to go through all of the awesome things we have developed and improved recently at SiteGround to make sure that your websites are even safer than usual. Let me quickly share my presentation. Okay, I hope you can see my slides. To begin with, I want to start with the improvements we have made in our web application firewalls and the server-side protection systems. Those are the things that we at SiteGround, and specifically our security team, do every day, 24 hours a day, to protect you without you even knowing. This includes a lot of things that we do in the background, a lot of work that's being done without anyone ever notices, hopefully. And this includes our web application firewall. It is it is a firewall that we develop ourselves, which basically includes a set of rules that we have developed and added to block potential hacking attempts against WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and other very famous and widely used applications. And we have added a lot of rules, and we continue to do that and try to protect against common vulnerabilities on day zero as they arrive. The second thing, a tool that you already know is out there. Again, requires nothing from you to do or configure. That's our anti-bot AI protection system. It analyzes all the traffic coming towards our servers, and when we detect that a certain IP address is trying to perform any sort of malicious action, again, we have a lot of rules to match those actions. We mark and challenge this address with visual verification that they are human. And this is very useful against massive brute force attacks, and all sort of massive attacks that try to explore, let's say, a vulnerability in a plugin that is widely used. Next thing that's something we at SiteGround are very proud of is the account isolation. And what this means is that something that's now a thing in the past for us since a lot of time, is that even if you're on a share account, you shouldn't be scared that if someone hosted on the same server get hacked, you will be somehow affected. Our accounts are isolated on such levels that you don't really care what the next person on the server is doing, how weak their password is. Even if they get hacked, you're safe. This is something we have done, and which is our custom implementation. It works amazing. And the next two bullet points here, and that's why it are the regular service updates and 0 days vulnerability patches. Those are the things that we apply literally on the same day that they appear, and that includes all our services. It's just not just our rules on the firewall, but we're talking things like maintenance updates of the PHP service, of the MySQL service when necessary, of all the services that run our Nginx Apache servers, and all that is being monitored meticulously by our admins in the security team. And when there is something, sometimes we don't even wait to official patch to be released, so we patch it ourselves. And we are very, very focused on that. And our team, I'm very proud with our team and the work they're doing, because it's a very difficult task, but they're doing it great. Now, I want to begin with those things that may sound like not very interesting or not very difficult, but they're very, very important for each website master. Certificates, backups, and updates. To begin with backups, you can now on our higher plans create a backup, manual backup. And now, if you have been monitoring our blog, probably you know this, but now we have our backups being geographically separated from the main server, which means that, for example, your website is not backed on the same data center, that physical place that is holding your main site. You remember there was a fire in one of the biggest European providers, and which brought down a big part of the internet. And I'm very happy to tell you that this is something that can happen with us. We won't, even if something like this happens to one data center, we will be immediately able to restore the data, or even run it from a separate location. So this is a huge update of our backup system. We offer 30 days backups, 30-day backups on our shared accounts, and you can restore your files, emails, databases from each one of them. Or if you're doing some update or something like that, you can create a manual restoration point that you can use if something goes wrong. I'm briefly touching up on backups. They're not a brand new tool. You will not see any changes in the interface, but behind the scenes, again, the geographical distribution of those backups has been greatly improved, and this is a whole new layer of security for you. So I've been stumbling upon this. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Don't keep your backups with your hosting provider. Yes, in the most cases that's true, but with SiteGround you can totally rely on our backups, and you can use them because they're the fastest way you can restore something from a backup. Just go to SiteTools security backups tool, and you can restore in literally under a minute. Well, it depends on the amount of data you're transferring, but basically it's super fast and really, really secure. Now, the SSL manager, again, we have been one of the first adopters, first backers of Let's Encrypt, of the Let's Encrypt project, and we continue stronger than ever to support it and to utilize it. Right now, the major update here is that we try to issue an SSL certificate each time you start a new website with SiteTools, and unfortunately, that's not possible in all cases because your domain name may have been bought by another location, and that's perfectly fine. But the thing is that if we can, we're gonna install an SSL certificate automatically. Of course, you can always do it manually, reissue it, or replace a standard one with a wildcard. That's up to you. But in 2021, there is no reason for you not to use an SSL certificate. HTTPS connections are faster because you can't use HTTP2 protocol without having a certificate, and they're dramatically safer. Just having an SSL certificate eliminates a whole variety of potential attacks and issues that you may get. And the WordPress auto update system, it's been here for quite some time. Again, we're very happy with it, and it's been doing its work. Having your websites up to date is very important. If you go through, for example, of course WordPress is my passion and my thing, but if you go through the WordPress changelog, you'll always see that in almost every single update there is one or two security fixes. My colleague Stanimir is proud member of the WordPress security team, and those guys do a fantastic job. But it's very, very important to have those fixes applied before someone utilizes them, because some of those security issues are being detected before they have been utilized, and you really want to be on the latest WordPress version as well as your plugins. So use the auto update system. Again, it's something that is on by default, so go for it. The next thing that I want to talk about it is our improved site scanner. You can order it for each one of your websites, and you will see you will see an option to perform a manual scan now. So I want to briefly explain to this. Right now, we are actually combining two different types of scans into one product. The first scan, the one that runs on a regular basis, actually scans your URLs and goes from one URL to another, similarly to, let's say, the Google bot, and it scans your HTML output for malicious content. Basically, it will scan only your publicly available files, and it will alert you in case there is some suspicious content that has reached the internet. The manual scan that you can perform is a brand new system which is developed by our admin team, and it goes through every single file in your content, no matter if it's outside your public HTML folder, for example. It may not sound like a big difference, but actually it is, because, for example, if your website has been compromised somehow through an exploit, the attacker may not have changed your, let's say, HTML outputs to include SEO links. They may have just added PHP shell, a backdoor, so they can access your account, upload scripts, and do stuff without harming your website. So the manual scan, I would recommend you can run it up to 5 times a day, but I recommend you that you run it every now and then. It's brand new. Probably at some point we're gonna do it we will start probably running it on a regular basis, but as of now it's only a manual option, and it will go through every single file, and I would totally recommend that you do it every now and then, and see if you don't have any uploaded content that may be malicious. And this brings us to the next big thing, the SiteGround security plugin. It is the latest addition to the SiteGround plugins that we have publicly available in the WordPress repository. Actually, it is the first plugin that we have developed, which is available for people using WordPress not only on SiteGround. You can use it on your other hosting providers if you have accounts elsewhere. Feel free to use it. It's completely free of charge, and it runs on other hosting platforms too. The plugin tries to and does an amazing job on a few different aspects. the first being the WordPress security itself. The second part is it provides you with great login security, and I will talk about this later on. It gives you a very detailed activity log, which can be very helpful in a lot of cases, not only limited to security, but for example, if you want to see who has deleted a certain post from your editorial team, you can go to the log and see who has done what. And it has a very useful list of post hack actions that will help you eliminate any leftovers, and if you're unlucky to be hacked, it will make it easier for you to avoid this from happening again. So if you're not using the plugin, I totally recommend that you start doing it. It's great, and we've done a lot of work in order to make it not only improve your security, but run without damaging your site performance. So it's fast and still very, very, very powerful. So to begin with, on the site security page of the plugin, you're gonna see a number of different options that you can enable, and each one of them will improve your site security by a certain degree. Remember when I said in the beginning that security is not a simple thing, but it's not a single action, and you constantly need to do this. But those things are basic things that will improve your site security. For example, something simple like deleting the README file from and similar files like the README HTML from your public HTML folder will eliminate bots that crawl and gather WordPress websites. If an attacker doesn't know that you're using WordPress, they will not try to run their scripts on your websites in first place. The same thing we're doing in order to hide the WordPress version, because some of those hacks again require a specific version, and those try to hide the fact that you're using WordPress in first place, and doing this will get you out of lists that are basically URLs on which people try their hacks. You have the lock and protect system folders, so in case someone is trying to exploit a vulnerability, they won't be able to upload any content, any backdoors, scripts, malicious scripts, and all that stuff to your site. We're disabling the XML-RPC protocol, which is basically used, it's basically a thing of the past, but it's still used by some plugins. I would totally recommend that you disable it, because it's really widely used for denial of service attack and all that. We have advanced cross-site script protection, which again will help you. For example, one of your apps to infect another one, or if, for example, if there's a vulnerable plugin, it will, in many cases, it will prevent attackers from utilizing this security issue. I would totally recommend that you go through the descriptions, and if you can, totally enable each option. The second main thing is the login security. We have put a lot of effort here. First, you can change your custom login URL. Again, this is something that most of the bots online that try to do a brute force attack, for example, will try to go to /wp-admin. You can change this to my login, to welcome, whatever. Just make sure it's not the default one. So if an attacker that has gathered just a list of URLs and try something on that list, will not succeed in even launching the brute force attack, because your URL will be completely different. The next thing we have included is limit of login attempts. You can set how many times one can enter the incorrect password before they get blocked for a certain period of time. And if they get blocked again, that period of time increase. So that's a very, very, very useful information and functionality. And the next thing is disable common usernames, which basically forces you, and if you have registration, for example, for users to not choose usernames like admin, administrators, me, etc. So usually when a brute force attack is launched against a website, those are the first and most popular usernames that attacker will use. So if they can guess the username, half of their job is done. Disabling those make sure that people actually enter a username that's meaningful and not that easy to be guessed. I left for last my most favorite functionality that we have developed. That's the two-factor authentication for admin and editor users. If you enable it, you will be shown a QR code and you can add it and scan it to your Google Authentication app. So each time you log in, of course, you can choose to be remembered on that browser and device. You don't have to do it every time, but it will require you to use your phone to authenticate. This completely eliminates the possibility of your credentials basically being used. Even if someone guesses your password, they won't be able to go through the two-factor authentication. This works very nice, and I totally recommend that you enable it in your website. Don't worry that you have to do it every time. Once you authenticate on a browser, unless you change and click on the remember me option, unless you change your IP address or the browser, both your IP address and the browser, we will not challenge you again for some time. I think it's a week. So you don't have to constantly log in if that's an issue for you. So I recommend that you give it a try, and two-factor authentication has been working great for so many cases. You have probably noticed that every major bank online service requires two-factor authentication, even Facebook and the social media. So why not have it for your website? That is probably your business. Last but not least, the post-hack actions. I hope that you never have to use this page, but here you can easily reinstall all the free plugins that you have on your website. This will make sure that you don't have any files that are left hacked with malicious content that can be later used to compromise your website security again. You can force a password reset for all of the users that you have. So if you have been hacked through someone having a very weak password or their credentials stolen, you can make sure that they will be reset. And you have a very quick button to log out all the currently logged users. Again, in order to prevent someone who has somehow gained access to your website to do something bad on it before you take action and reset them. So turns out I've been faster than expected, and I would love to start answering your question. So time for Q&A. Okay, just 1 second. Again, please use the ask a question functionality and not the chat. On the chat, it's very difficult to monitor everything because things move fast, while the question and answer tab works great. Okay, so does SiteGround security plugin negate the need for WordFence? WordFence is a very well written plugin. I really like it. I don't want to go into one-on-one comparisons, but I believe that you don't need to use it if you're on a SiteGround web hosting account using SiteGround security and having it configured. WordPress has a web application firewall. It is something that I believe shouldn't be done on a plugin. Web application firewall should be something running on your server, because if you have it running on a plugin, it consumes a lot of resources from your website that should be utilized for serving regular traffic. Our web application firewall works great, and it works faster for sure, without you having to install or configure anything. So no, I don't believe you need to have WordFence in case you have the SiteGround security plugin and you're hosted on SiteGround. On other hosting platforms that you don't have a trusted web application firewall running, you may want to still use it, but no, I don't think it's necessary on SiteGround. How to stop all? I'm answering the question from Rick. How to stop all the spam from forms on WordPress sites? Personally, I love the Akismet plugin. It has a free version, although nowadays it's a bit tricky to get a free API code. It's a very small text somewhere hidden, but they still have it for free. I've been using it on all my websites, and it works really nice. I totally recommend that you guys use the Akismet plugin. At some point, I believe we will make an addition to the SiteGround security plugin that will battle spam against comments, but it's not something that's ready yet. So meanwhile, I would recommend using the Akismet plugin to prevent spam from reaching out to your comment section. SiteGround backups. Backups all good. Any plans to allow testing of those backups? For example, restore to staging. Yes, this is an idea that has been going on for quite some time. I can't give you an ETA for that, unfortunately, especially right now, because it's the end of the year and we're trying to wrap up the majority of the bigger things that we're doing. With that being said, I can't give you an ETA when that's going to be available, but this is definitely something that we will consider for our roadmap and future improvements. Is it advised, question by Mark Lees, is it advised to have another security plugin besides the SiteGround security plugin? I think that in general, when it comes to WordPress and plugins, you need to have one plugin for a single purpose. You don't need to duplicate functionality. This is very important, especially when we talk about plugins that do things for security and that do things for performance. I've been saying this on our webinars for the SiteGround Optimizer, for example, that if you install 3 plugins for WordPress speed improvements, your website will not become 3 times faster, it will become slower. Those plugins tend to monitor things, tend to hook on very, very early stages of the WordPress loading process. We touch very core functionalities, and I would not advise that you use more than one. The SiteGround security plugin should be enough for you in combination of all the services that we provide in our hosting platform. More security plugins can lead to conflicts, and when you have a conflict in performance and security, it's not good, because usually this will break your website. So no, my answer to that question is no. If you believe that we're lacking some critical functionality for you, I totally urge you to go on the WordPress forum of the SiteGround security plugin and open a thread. We monitor those on a daily basis. My team is answering every single thread you open. So if you believe something is missing, just open a thread and we will give you the proper advice or tell you what to do, but don't rush into installing too many plugins for security, because you may get into a situation where conflicts occur. Okay. A question from Charles St. John. My site was hacked and malicious software was inserted. We had to pull the site down given that we have the SiteGround scanner. The weekly notice said everything is clean. In your other protective measures, how can someone hack our website and insert their code? That's one of the reasons I explained that we have added a brand new layer to our site scanner tools. The weekly scans from the outside, and you may not have malicious code added this way, or it might have been added after the report was sent. So I can't say exactly how that happened, but again, there are a number of ways a website can be compromised. For example, if someone with enough access to it had a weak password, or if you had a computer with access to that website through FTP, for example, and that computer got malware or another sort of virus on it, a potential attacker may have gained access to it. Of course, it could be an outdated plugin, it could be a vulnerable theme, or something like that. There's never a 100% guarantee that you won't get hacked. That's why you have to constantly think about security when you manage your website. Question by Arona: do I need to use a plugin backup? Well, it's up to you. If you prefer to have a local copy, you can always use a plugin to have one layer of security. One more backup copy never hurt anyone. If you feel the need to do it, do it. Our backups are completely reliable, and you can trust us to be able to restore your data at any time. The days back that we have promised for your account. For example, it's 30 days on shared and 7 days on cloud hosting. But if you want to have another copy, feel free to use any of the backup plugins out there. Most of them should be running just fine on SiteGround. Okay, one more question. Leslie: I get several emails daily that say new user registration or password change. None appear to be legitimate. Do I need to do anything other than delete the emails? That sounds like you need to check the general settings, registration of your WordPress website, and see if user registration is allowed in first place. If you don't want to allow users to register for your website, just disable this functionality. And check if you have WooCommerce. So if you have WooCommerce, if you have clients purchasing something from your website, some of them may be registering to buy it, or they may have forgotten their password. And if that's the case, it's perfectly normal. You will get a notification from WooCommerce, for example, if your clients are changing their passwords. If you're the only one, I recommend that you disable completely the registration functionality, and just delete those emails. It won't hurt if you actually change your password every now and then from the WordPress backend. Make sure that you do it from the backend and not by following any of those links, because there has been a race in phishing attempts, and that may be the case. I'm afraid, but I can't be more specific without looking into the actual thing. I have to completely delete WordPress in order to properly migrate a website. Will I need to do the same thing that with the SiteGround security plugin? I don't think so. We don't have the plugin does not firewall any of the traffic, so you should be okay migrating. With the SiteGround migrator, we have people who not only migrate from other hosting companies to us, but people who want to move from one SiteGround account to another. And those we call internal migrations. And since we pre-installed the SiteGround security plugin, a lot of those migrations are of websites that have it active, And so far, I haven't heard anything from our support team that this has been a problem. So with the number of websites that we host and the number of migrations we made, I would have heard about it. So I would say no, you should be able to easily migrate without worrying with the SiteGround security plugin on. The new SiteGround security, a question by Scott. The new SiteGround security plugin looks very similar to the security plugin, which I'm currently using as previously advised by SiteGround. Do you recommend using the security plugin and replacing it with SiteGround security? Yes. The short answer is yes. I would recommend using ours because I know how we meticulously maintain it. To be perfectly honest, I haven't been looking at the Sakori plugin for quite some time. I guess it's okay for them to have similarities since they're both security plugins. But as I already said when we talked about WordFriends, I don't want to go into one-on-one features comparison because that's not the main purpose. What we want to do is to make and provide you with all the necessary functionalities where they should be, like the firewall on the server, the security strengthening, and password strengthening on a plugin level. So short answer here is yes. If you automatically redirect HTTP to HTTPS, is HSTS needed? No, you don't need to do it, but I recommend that you do it for extra security. That was a question by David Hancock. Another question is, can you only use the Google Authenticator application for two-factor authenticator? Or will it work with other authenticator apps? I already use Microsoft one for other sites. Thanks. So far, we have tested it with the Google Authenticator only because we love the Google services. SiteGround hosting is on Google Cloud Platform, and they have been very reliable. At this point, the Google Authenticator is the only application we support. That doesn't mean that we won't be adding more later. Actually, the Microsoft one is in the roadmap, and I really hope that soon it will be available for you to use. A question by Julian Kinlow. I used WordPress with Elementor on a new site where the security plugin was auto-added. It locked up my site here until I disabled it about everything in the security plugin. Please explain why this may have happened. I have no idea, honestly. We have a lot of websites with Elementor, and we always test with Elementor. Both our performance and security plugins, and they work just fine. I would recommend please open a thread in the SiteGround security plugin. We're gonna take a look at it and tell you exactly what went wrong. 99% of the cases, it's not an Elementor plugin, it's a plugin for the Elementor plugin that is misbehaving, because there are now a gazillion of those, and everybody writes one without following the best practices necessarily. So usually those are the ones to blame and not Elementor, because I can assure you that the SiteGround security plugin works flawlessly with Elementor. But yeah, this said, open a thread and we'll make sure that we take a look at it and get back to you to tell you more. Question by Linda: will SiteGround backups allow the ability to download a backup? This is a question that has been popping up every here and there now and then, and it's something that we're discussing. I believe that at some point we should do it, but at this point I can't give you an ETA when this will be available. So yeah, we're discussing it, and hopefully it will become reality soon. Is there a plugin for Joomla? No, I'm afraid we had a security plugin for Joomla that we stopped maintaining Right now for Joomla, the only thing that we maintain is the web application firewall. We add rules for Joomla applications to not only WordPress websites, and we don't have plans to develop security plugins for Joomla. Okay, another question. How do I? The question is from Natalie Jordan. How do I ensure I keep my customers' information secure on my website? Login information, credit card info, personal info, etc. Well, that's a very tough question. As I said, security is not a single thing. It's a process. It's a mindset. But if you follow the best practices, like having an SSL certificate, having all of your admins have strong passwords, strong usernames, regularly updating your website, having a security plugin installed and activated, updating your plugins, all this should be enough for you to have a successful online business. Since you're mentioning customers, I guess you're selling something online. We have a huge number of WooCommerce, Easy Digital Downloads websites on our hosting account, and yes, when you're selling stuff online, you have more responsibilities, but it's not that scary. It's not that bad. If you follow the best practices, you should be safe. I'm implementing SiteGround optimizer. There is a ton of testing and checking to see if things breaks as you're optimized. Can you talk about how security plugin implementation may be the same or different? The SiteGround optimizer mostly, and I have advised this to enable an optimization and then test. When we talk about your front end, it touches a lot of things rendering HTML on your website. So it's normal when you have all those plugins and themes pouring into the CSS and JavaScript and the HTML to be very careful when you optimize, to have to check after you enable things like combination, minification. With the security, we don't touch your front end that much. So generally, you don't need to do that much testing, honestly. I would say the only thing that I would test for sure is if you have an online store and if you have chosen to use a custom login URL, make sure you test your entire customer journey, the registration process, the registration of users, their logins, because some teams, some plugins unfortunately do things not the proper way when it comes to login. For example, they have hard-coded the URLs and stuff like that. And if you change the default login URL, some piece of functionality like this may break. Rather than that, I don't think that you need that much testing, and it would take that much time to get the best out of it. Question: would there be a reply? Probably good. It would be good to be able to hear again. Yeah, we have a YouTube channel, so subscribe and press that button. Subscribe to our channel. Tomorrow we're gonna add this webinar in high definition, so you can listen to it whenever suitable for you and you have the time. Okay. Question from MS, being just curious, which web application vendor do you have? It's our own. It's our own web application firewall. We have a team of security experts that manage the rules and add more maintain the old ones and keep the firewall running. So it's not something we have just installed on our accounts. That's one of the greatest things about us migrating away from cPanel and to SiteTools. It gives us all the flexibility and all the power to maintain such things ourselves and make them better than anyone else. Great question from Mark. Does SiteGround flag or block addresses that are doing brute force attacks on hosted sites and apply to all SiteGround hosted sites? I use another tool where this is one of the features. Yes, this is something that our anti-bot AI system does. When we detect that a certain IP address is performing, let's say, a brute force attack, that information is distributed across our entire network. So it's not banned only on that server, but it's banned across our entire infrastructure. And this is great, especially when we have massive attacks, which are not focused directly on a single website, but try to utilize some vulnerability that is, let's say, if there is a plugin which is famous and it has a security hole in it, or a certain hack is discovered and they try to utilize it across a huge list of websites just to be able to gain access to as many websites as possible. This works great because once we detect this attempt on one server, it's blocked everywhere else, and it may not even reach to your website in first place. Another question: custom login URL. Will you do a simple video on how to implement this? Just set it up and have checked out on configuring this, and have chickened out. Don't worry, it's not that bad. It's just enable the functionality, and it will ask you to type in a URL. Just use something like my login or whatever, and save it, and just log out and log in using the new URL. Don't chicken out. It's safe. Don't worry about it. Even if something goes wrong, you can always ask our support team members to disable this, so you can log in again and see what's wrong, or they can assist you properly configure it. But you can't go wrong with it. So a question from Jason regarding PHP updated existing plugins for current WordPress site. Wonder what will happen if I didn't update long period of time, because it's tricky without connected. Some plugins are no longer a service available, for example. That's a very, very big issue generally when we talk about updating software in general, not only WordPress or Joomla or any other popular application. The thing is that you need to constantly keep up to the latest WordPress, to the latest PHP version. That's why we have something called managed PHP version, because we update it to you when the massive adoption rate of that latest PHP version reaches the necessary level. So if the majority of plugins support PHP 7.3, we're gonna have the managed version on PHP 7.3, 7.4. One day, hopefully, we will bump that version to 8. But that will happen only when the majority of plugins are compatible with it. This said, when we make those managed versions, when we consider our defaults, we look at the big picture. There are always cases in which certain plugin may not work on a latest PHP version, but I totally urge you that if you have websites that require old PHP versions, take a look at them. Maybe even hire someone to look at if a plugin is not developed anymore. Maybe even hire someone to patch it. Usually a PHP developer will not have that big of a problem to bring a plugin to work from, let's say, PHP 7.0 to PHP 7.4. Now, if it's very, very, very obsolete, you may have to work more, but at some point we discontinue. For example, we no longer support PHP 4. Probably somewhere there is a plugin that requires PHP 4, but it will just stop working because it's very old, it's very vulnerable, it's not being supported anymore, and we don't want it running on our servers. We don't want people using it because it's bad for them. So I would say just make the necessary to keep up with the PHP versions. They're not coming every week, so it's not that bad, and you need to take care of this. You need to update. Okay. A question by Evan O'Connor. The site I now manage uses really simple SSL plugin. Can that plugin be disabled and replaced by the SiteGround SSL manager functionality? Yes, you can disable that plugin, but I recommend that you use the SiteGround optimizer plugin, and in it you will find a button called force HTTPS, and you can use it. Once you enable this functionality, you can check your website, and if you still have some insecure data, there is a checkbox to fix such errors, but make sure you take a look at the website right after enabling the functionality, because in 99% of the cases you don't need to do anything else. Another question, are there any non-conflicts with Debian SiteGround security plugin? I have to turn the plugin off to work on a website. No. Please do open a ticket in the SiteGround security forum in the WordPress.org repository. We're going to take a look at it and tell you what is happening. There shouldn't be any issues using DB. It's a very popular theme. A lot of our clients use it without any problems. A nice question. It's from Rashid Doctor. I hope I didn't mess your name too much. Is storing WordPress passwords in my browser safe? This is something that our security officer of our company that manages our internal security would love to come by and talk about an hour or so, but you have to deal with. I will have to be enough. The short answer is no. Unfortunately, browsers are amongst the worst places to keep your passwords. It's not the best security policy to store your credentials in browsers. There has been two major security issues with the Chrome browser for the past month. Vulnerabilities that forced the teams at Google to push updates on the same day. And this is not a single case. It's not something that's rarely happening. Browsers are on the, let's say, front end of the web. They're the ones that adopt cutting edge technology, that always try to perform better, to support the next new format, to give you that next piece of functionality and ease of use, to protect you against this and that. So they're constantly being developed, and this makes them vulnerable to a lot of people who try to exploit them, because it's a very, very big target to attack. So I would, my recommendation would be to get password, one of the password apps out there. 1Password, LastPass, Okta are one of the applications that were great. They're doing specifically that, and I would you should totally get one of these and use them for all of your data. Not only WordPress, but I would say if you have online banking, if you social media, everything that has sensible or financial information in it, don't store it in your browser. Okay. Another question. I've had issues with malware in the past, and now I require website security for all of my clients. I'm using SiteGround to monitor and clean. SiteGround to monitor and clean. Will SiteGround offer an in-house cleaning product in the near future? I really hope so. This is something that we currently we're not providing. We are recommending to use our clients to use security, which are specialized in doing this. But that's one of the things we have been discussing. So I can't give you an ETA, but we're definitely considering such service in the future. Yeah. Could you repeat the suggestions on storing passwords? Yes, 1Password, LastPass, Okta. Those three are the ones that pop up on my mind. Just pick one that feels best for you and your needs, and most of them have different, plans in terms of number of users. If you're managing a team, for example, you may get a very good deal for them. Okay, a last question, and we'll wrap it up for today. I use cloud service. I don't see the security plugin. How do I add the features that I saw today? A question by Kathleen Butler. It is a free plugin. You can install it on every WordPress application. It's installed by default by our installation app. We haven't installed it on everyone with existing websites. So if you have a website, you can go to just plugins, add new plugin, search for SiteGround security, and click install and activate. So I hope that answers your question. You can install it on every WordPress website, just like any other plugin, and it will be there for you. And with that, I'd like to wrap it up for today. Thank you all for joining us here. It's tonight. For some of you, probably it's in the morning or during the day. It has been a pleasure for me to answer your questions. And again, press the green button, subscribe to our YouTube channels, and don't miss the content we make for you. I hope that you have found it useful, and will join us again next month with our next webinar.